The word spectacular really isn't enough.
The raw power and that raw beauty.
Just being in that place is so magical.
It was a magical place.
The landscapes of northwestern Montana have been home to Native American tribes for thousands of years. The Blackfeet, the Salish, the Pend Oreille, the Kootenai, and others. The region was known as the Land of Shining Mountains. It was among the last places in America to see substantial European settlement. Then the Great Northern Railway arrived and changed everything. The history of Glacier Park is in many ways the history of the Great Northern. In the 1890s, they laid tracks along what is now Glacier's southern border, opening up the area to settlers and introducing the country to the Land of the Shining Mountains. Thanks to the efforts of the Great Northern and others, Glacier became a park in 1910. Lewis Hill, the Great Northern's president, loved the park, and he felt that it would be a great tourist draw for his railroad. Over the next several years, the railway built 2 grand hotels and 9 smaller chalets for the park. The Landmark Hotel, now known as Glacier Park Lodge, opened in 1913. It was where travelers arriving on the Great Northern began their glacier vacation. The hotel was known for its massive 3-story lobby framed with 800-year-old Douglas fir logs, which earned it the nickname Big Tree Lodge. A pathway along a beautifully landscaped lawn led travelers from the nearby Great Northern Depot to the hotel. Near the hotel, the railroad built what is now the oldest golf course in Montana.
The first time I arrived into East Glacier Park Lodge, I was completely blown away. I walked into the lodge and looked at these magnificent timbers holding up this fantastic structure, and I said, wow, what a place.
The hotel served as the headquarters for Glacier Park Company, the railway subsidiary that operated the park concessions for decades.
In those early years, Glacier was really a horseback park. Many tourists stopped at the hotels and then would join large horseback parties and take trips for several days, spending nights in tent camps and chalets.
The railroad's largest project was Many Glacier Hotel, a chalet-style masterpiece in one of the park's finest settings.
We were right on the Continental Divide, and that hotel was built there for a reason, because the scenery was so spectacular.
For years, Many Glacier was the largest hotel in Montana. And for part of its history, it was also known for something else: song and dance.
There was a lot of music making. We'd do a couple sets of music every meal.
We put on a musical at the end of the summer, a full-blown Broadway musical.
In 1936, the Heavens Peak Forest Fire nearly burned down Many Glacier Hotel. The hotel was bombarded by flying embers. The manager was able to get out a telegram later, beep, 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 to the Great Northern headquarters exulting, "We have saved the hotel!" The Great Northern sent a one-word reply. Why? The railroad almost always lost money on the lodges, and that must have been especially true in those Great Depression years.
The Great Northern chalets were smaller, rustic buildings made of log or stone, and sometimes reachable only by boat or horseback. Most of the old chalet buildings are gone now, but the Belton Chalet remains a landmark of the West Glacier community. And Sperry and Granite Park chalets still serve backcountry travelers, as they have for over a century. In 1926, the Great Northern built the Prince of Wales Hotel in Waterton Lakes National Park, just over the border in Canada. The Prince, as it was called, offered something Americans were desperate for during Prohibition: legal alcohol. The hotel's striking architecture and magnificent setting make it a Waterton Glacier landmark.
Waterton's truly unique, truly special. The mountains there, some of the oldest, most exposed rock in the Canadian Rockies, they're layered horizontally. They're so detailed and textured.
But the Great Northern wasn't the only host for Glacier's early visitors. At Lake McDonald, local residents were operating hotels and cabin camps even before the park was established. The hotel that is now Lake McDonald Lodge was the center of that community, one that included the famed Western artist Charlie Russell. The lobby and dining room are some of the most beautifully crafted spaces in the park.
We arrived to Lake McDonald Lodge at dusk. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this fairyland?
I knew right away that I was in a really special place.
In the 1920s and 30s, the Park Service constructed Going to the Sun Road across the park, and that dramatically changed the way most visitors experienced Glacier. Most of the chalets eventually closed, and the long horseback expeditions ended, while new facilities were built to serve the automobile traveler, like Swift Current and Rising Sun Motor Inns. In 1938, a local family constructed West Glacier Village, a matched set of chalet-style buildings at the western entrance of the Going to the Sun Road. And at the park's eastern entrance, Hugh and Margaret Black began building St. Mary Village in 1929. It soon grew to include a lodge, restaurant, and stores. It sits right on the edge of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation.
It was very humbling to learn about the indigenous cultures who used and lived on that land before we were there.
The area holds great spiritual importance to the Blackfeet and other tribes to this day. Tribal nations maintain strong partnerships with Glacier National Park to help preserve the area's indigenous history and culture. For generations, young people have come to the park to work in these historic lodges. And in a way, everybody who visits, but especially people who work in the park for the summer, they become a part of Glacier's history, forever altering their own story along the way.
I think a person who wants to work in Glacier Park for a summer is kind of up for anything. And when a lot of people who are game get together with other people who are game, then there's just this buzz that happens.
The camaraderie that develops over a summer working together in an isolated location where you have to depend on each other, it just builds a bond that lasts a lifetime.
I made a lot of friends that I still have today, 35, 40 years later.
Some of the folks I met in 1978 are still some of my best friends.
The time we spent together was just so expanding a person's horizons.
It just forms bonds and creates an openness that we don't always experience in urban life.
We took those 3 months and we crammed a full year's worth of living.
That first summer in Glacier Park changed me forever in the sense that I felt more alive than ever before. Being in nature, being surrounded by the beauty.
We were just a manic group of hikers. We did scary things. We climbed mountains. I guess it was a maturing thing, but it was a very fun way to become more mature.
It's a life-changing adventure and a remarkable chance to experience a place of unmatched wildness and beauty.
97% of Glacier is pristine natural wilderness.
Glacier caused me and helped me to fall in love with the West.
I realized after that first summer at Glacier that I would probably not live back east ever again.
Almost everyone who spends a summer in the parks, it is still a part of them throughout the rest of their lives.
Glacier Park is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me.
It just opened up the world to me.
It was definitely life-changing.
I was a stranger in a strange land, but I was made to feel welcome. And I try to live by those words today.
Glacier Park is the best place on earth.